Starting a podcast and growing it can be tough, especially if you don't know where or how to begin. But don't worry, in this video, I'm going to cover the major lessons that I've learned and the most important things I've learned on my podcast journey. And trust me, you're going to want to stick around to the end. It's the most important thing if you want to learn how to grow your show. Right, we're going to talk about podcasting, how to start, how to grow, and keep going, most importantly. Whether you're already a podcaster or just curious about the world of podcasting, this video is for you. We're going to explore the challenges the podcasters face. We're going to talk about the latest ideas that are working, and I'll even share with you some of my success stories to help you grow your podcast to the next level. Here's the truth. When you start a podcast, you're not going to be great right away. And that's okay. One of the biggest challenges podcasters face is this. How do you get good at podcasting if you're just starting? The secret? You can't skip the learning process. You have to dive in and do it. That's the only way to improve. So, once you're ready to start, don't overthink it. My first tip is simple. Just start. When I began, all I had was a laptop and a $20 microphone. That's it. Nothing else. You don't need any fancy equipment to get going. Think of podcasting like learning to drive. You can read all about driving and take lessons, but the real learning happens when you're out on the road, figuring it out for yourself. And the same goes for podcasting. You'll learn as you go. If you start, the next step is to improve as you go. Those 1% gains, those marginal gains that we talk about. Record your episodes, share them, and look for ways to make each one better. But we'll talk more about that in another video. So just be sure to hit subscribe so you don't miss when that one drops. Here's a tip that might seem obvious, but so many people either forget or fail to do it. Tell people about your show. Nobody's going to discover it unless you're telling people about it, unless you're putting it out there. Ask your friends and family to subscribe. Post about it on social media. Ask your guests to share episodes that they're on. It's simple, but it works. Now let's talk about something really important, and that is keeping your listeners coming back, show after show, episode after episode. You know what it's like. Social media is crowded. The podcasting world is no different. It's very, very crowded and saturated. There are so many shows out there. Social media is full of podcast clips. So how do you stand out? How do you get people to notice your podcast and to stick around? One of the things I've learned is people do not care about you. They care about what your podcast can do for them. So make your content useful or entertaining for your audience. Then share it everywhere you can. Get feedback from listeners, improve your content and keep going. But ultimately, your content is serving an audience. So you need to serve that audience. When you grow your audience, you also open the door to making money from your podcast, right? Monetization. If that is your goal from the outset, I just stop now because it's not going to fly. Ultimately, the monetization and making money from a podcast is a side effect of having a good show, of creating content that people enjoy and love. But first, you've got to make that content. So it's going to take a long time before you're making content that people enjoy, love, and want to engage with. So put monetization to the back burner. Yes, it is good and you can get there, but don't focus on that. That is secondary to the content and the craft that is creating a good podcast. That being said, monetization doesn't have to be a no-no from the get-go. For instance, if you've got other businesses or you're a coach and you get into podcasts to raise awareness of your business, or you might be using Patreon and have groups, communities, stuff like that, school. You can do that and raise awareness and drive people to that from the outset. So it can happen, but remember, none of it happens without an audience. So building a community of listeners first is still your priority. Now, here's something I want you to think about. So some of the best podcasters out there are constantly trying new things. They're constantly testing out new ideas, formats, tools, and ways to reach their audience in better ways. A lot of these people have big teams, but we can still take lessons from them and implement them as an individual solopreneur or solo podcaster. For instance, I really admire Chris Williamson, who's grown his podcast into one of the biggest in the world. How has he done it? He's done it by focusing on 3 things, and the 3 things that we can also focus on: quality, consistency, and community. He's created great episodes, releases them on the regular schedule, and he's connected to his listeners through social media and live events. Now, unlike Chris Williamson, who has 3 million followers, you don't need that many followers to find success. Imagine having just 10% of that success, or 1% even. That's enough to create an amazing life. What's the key? Well, the key is to focus on improving step by step. Podcasting is about getting better over time, building relationships with your listeners, and sticking with it. Now, I know there's a lot to learn about podcasting, and you've probably got a million questions about equipment, booking guests, or creating great content. Don't worry, we'll cover all of that in the future videos. Just let me know in the comments what you want to learn, and make sure you subscribe so when I drop those videos, you don't miss out. For me, podcasting is a journey. It's about inspiring people one episode at a time. Now, I hope you've learned something valuable from this short video. Really appreciate you watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more tips and tricks on podcasting. Love to hear your thoughts in the comments, so let me know what you're excited to learn next, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.